Alright. Hadronox. Summon your taunt minions that died. The problem with this is that it's a death rattle and it's kind of really slow. And it might take a while to die. Or they can silence it or something. Or polymorph it. And like, it's a freaking 3/7 for 9. Like, if it was Battle Cry, it'd be broken, but it's Death Rattle, so it's kind of slow. So I'm not sure about that. But it's kind of cool, I guess. Maybe. I don't know. It's probably alright in like the big druid, whatever. Fate Spinner. Deal 3 to all or give them +2/+2. I'm not sure like what type of druid wants to run this. Like, do you play it in the aggro tokeny druid, or do you... I guess if you're ahead, you do +2/+2. If you're behind, you do 3 to all. This card is like really hard to evaluate without playing it. Spreading Plague is probably just bad. Because it's gonna be like kind of dead in a lot of matchups. Deathstalker Rexar doesn't really make sense in current Hunter archetypes because it's like a control card. So also you lose your 2 damage hero power, which makes it kind of harder to close the game out against a lot of classes. I really want this card to be playable, but it's probably not going to be. Also competes with the 6-slot Savannah High Moon. Professor Putricide. The problem with this card is that unless you're playing it with a secret on turn 6, you're probably not getting immediate value. So they have an entire turn to answer it, and it's only 5/4 stats, so it's not that hard to kill for most classes. So it's unlikely you are even gonna get much value from it. Abominable Bowman, this card is just trash. Venom Strike Trap is pretty cool actually. It's kind of like Snake Trap, I guess. Basically the same thing, except instead of 3 1/1s, you get a 2/3 poisonous. So I don't know. Like, it's kind of similar. The only time Abominable Bowman is gonna be good is like if you... Wait, you can't even get it from a random effect because it's not a beast itself. The problem with this Abominable Bowman card is that hunters play stuff like Alley Cat in small tokens. It's basically like just gonna be a worse Savannah Jaime most of the time. Okay, yeah, Venom Strike Trap I'm not sure about. Like how good is the 2/3 situational poisonous cobra? Is that even better than Snake Trap? Sometimes it is, sometimes it's worse. Bear Shark 4/3 does not trade well with into 2-drops or even 1-drops, but if you can stick it in Houndmaster against like a control deck, you could just win the game because they can't use removal on it. Frostlich Jaina. Summon a 3/6 when you battle cry. So you get some sort of immediate impact, especially if you have other elementals on the board already. You play this, attack with an elemental or 2, gain some life, then you gain 5 life, and then you gain a 3/6. It's actually pretty decent. It doesn't really fit in like current mage archetypes because the current mage decks kind of just want to play Alex and kill your opponent, but This card is kind of cool. Also, the hero power gives you 3/6s when you kill stuff with the ping. It's kind of comparable to Draxus. Better sometimes, worse other times. Syndra Gosa, 8/8 for 8 dragon. I don't know if the dragon tag's even relevant though. Like what? What even dragon activators does mage have? None, right? Other than like bookworm. The problem with this card is that they can just ignore the 0/1s, and unless you like ping them yourself, they're not gonna do anything, and it's gonna be really slow, and it's an 8/8 for 8 with no immediate impact on the board. It's like a super value card, but it's even slower than Medivh. And Medivh is already just barely fast enough to see play. This card is probably worse than Medivh. Ghastly Conjure, 2/6 for 4, add a mirror image to your hand. This is actually a pretty good card, I think. In a mage deck that runs Antonidas or Mage Quest, like just getting the additional spell to get a fireball. Like I would play 2/6 for 4, add a fireball to my hands, and gain 2 mirror images on the board. Hell yeah. It's probably what this card is going to end up activating. Pretty good card. Doomed Apprentice. If this card costed 2, it would have been playable, but it costs 3, so it's unplayable. Ice Walker, your hero power also freezes the target. This one is pretty interesting. It's an elemental. I don't know if elemental mage is still gonna be a thing though, because there's not that much upside to running elementals, but if you can stick this guy in play and freeze something every turn, it's pretty nutty. But the problem is he has a 1/3, so it's kind of really weak on board and dies to every removal. Cold Wrath, if an enemy is frozen, draw a card. 3/4 for 3 is like pretty solid stats on its own. And if you can get the upside, it's completely absurd. The only problem is you probably are almost never going to be able to use this to draw on curve, because there's nothing like Snow Chugga in the game where you can just attack with it, freeze something, and then draw a card. So I don't know. I don't know if it'll be played, because it's like having an enemy frozen is actually surprisingly difficult condition to pull off. For the same reason like cards like Shatter and that sort of thing kind of suck. Bolvar, Fireblood. For some reason they decided to make another Bolvar that sucks. So good job, Blizzard. Light Sorrow. For some reason they try to force this Divine Shield garbage that's gonna be really bad. Howling Commander. This one could actually be decent, I guess. Like, just have like Tyrion and Wicker Flame in your deck, and then you just draw one of those like every time. I don't know. Like the Bolvar and the Light Sorrow are kind of too slow, but this Howling Commander guy is like decent value. Still a 2/2 for 3 though. 2/2 for 3, draw 1. Draw Tyrion every time. Is that worth it? I don't. Maybe. Like having card draw on Paladin is pretty decent. Because they don't really have much draw. 3/2 charge lifesteal for 4. Garbage. Eternal Servitude, discover friendly minion. Alright, super conditional situational priest cards is what Blizzard loves to push. They always make all these combo oriented stuff, but there ends up not being enough support to actually make a deck with it. So I don't know. Is this card going to be played? It really depends like what minions priest has. I don't think it's fair to assess the card at this point. Until you see like what their legendaries and stuff are. Lifesteal, deal 1 to all minions. Does priest need this? Maybe. It's like worse than Maelstrom Portal. I don't know how good. It's a super meta dependent card. Like, if the meta is like Zos first mate, then yeah, maybe it's alright. But if it's not, then it's probably just unplayable. Shadowblade. Battlecry, your hero is immune this turn. 3/2 weapon for 3 for rogue is kind of like meh. Like the thing is, weapons in rogue are generally worse than weapons in other classes, even if they're statted better, just because they don't synergize with your hero power. Like if you have the hero power on 2 and then play this on turn 3, you're kind of just sad because you just broke your weapon. Like not having to take face damage is cool. I don't know, this card doesn't seem great. At least not in the type of rogue decks that generally end up being viable. 2/3 for 3 combo, give a friendly minion poisonous. That's just awful, right? Like, sure you can trade up, but it's a 2/3 for 3. And it requires you to have a minion on board and the ability to combo. Probably a decent arena card. Give your weapon lifesteal. Okay, Blizzard. Good job giving Rogue complete and utter garbage. Murabi. So they're trying to push like frozen mechanic for Shaman. I'm not sure about it. We haven't seen all the Shaman cards yet. Like, is this gonna be a thing? I don't know. This guy has a 4/4 for 6. Like, that's such a bad stat line. Even if you can guarantee value out of it immediately. It's ultra uber slow. And like meant for some value oriented deck where you're freezing stuff. I don't know. So far the other freezy type cards are not even that good. Cryostasis. Give a minion plus. I mean, I guess the idea with this is that you drop Murabi and then you like cryostasis one of your own minions, and is this even good? Like, it's so slow just to extract like minuscule amount of value Voodoo Hexer, taunt 2/7 for 5, freeze. This card is pretty decent actually. Like sure, if you can curve Voodoo Hexer into Mirabi, maybe it's a thing, but it's not gonna happen every time. This weapon seems kind of bad. Because the condition is like I said again, the frozen condition is like very conditional. It basically means you have to target something with a frozen spell and then attack it with this, or like attack with your Voodoo Hexer and then attack it with this. You're sinking 2 attacks into 1 minion. Like the cryostasis plus icebreaker isn't even good synergy. You're just gonna take extra damage to the face. I don't understand. I don't know what they're trying to push for Shaman this expansion. It seems awful. Alright, Blood Queen, Lanathel. +1 attack for each card you've discarded this game. Lifesteal. This is like garbage. Vanilla minion. Like, sure, Warlock wants lifesteal, but the type of deck that is discarding cards is not the type of deck that wants to play this card. Like, the type of deck that's discarding cards is Zoo or something, and they don't care about their life total that much. Like, another issue with this is you can just Soulfire something and then discard Lilanathel, and then you're freaking sad unless you're RNG god and hit the perfect discards. Shit mechanic that Blizzard keeps pushing for some reason. The discard mechanic is awful. I wish they would stop printing it on cards. Alright, the file is kind of interesting though. The thing is with this card is it requires like a really intricate setup. Like it has so much potential to completely blow out your opponent if the health totals on board are like correct. The only problem with this card currently is that we don't have enough support for like a control/slower Warlock archetype. So we would have to see the other cards first. Sanguine Reveler. Battlecry, destroy friendly minion game +2/+2. I mean, like, if you destroy a 1/1, it's a 2/2 for 1. That's like the average. There's not really enough targets that you want to destroy. Like, sure, you can destroy a 0/3 egg and then get your 3/3 and your 5/5, but at that point, you'd rather just play like Ravenous Pterodax or something. The problem with this card is that it's not really a 1-drop. Like, you want your, as Warlock, you want your 1-drops to be able to be played on turn 1. This card isn't even a 1-drop. It's something you weave in on later turns. And for that reason, it's really not good. Alright, bring it on. Gain 10 armor. So they're really ramping up the amount of armor you can gain for mana cost. This card might actually be playable. It kind of reminds me of like Dirty Rat, actually, sort of. Where you gain something like really efficient, but you give your opponent the chance to like speed up a bit. The thing is, you can just hold this card until like later turns when you're about to die, and then you push yourself up 10 health out of range potentially. It's kind of interesting. Shuffle a copy of your hand into your deck. This card is really slow. It requires you to have multiple cards in hand to get value out of it. The thing is, you immediately are down, like the moment you draw this, you're down card advantage, like -1 cards. Because it doesn't actually do anything itself, it just adds cards to your deck. It's kind of like Gang Up, and Gang Up was awful too. Like, people say, oh, this card can be played in Fatigue Warrior and you can go infinite, but in reality, like, is a Fatigue Warrior deck even viable when something like Jade Idol exists? Probably not. Like, the games don't go to Fatigue ever anymore, because every deck has, like, some way to either just kill your opponent before that happens, or have, like, inevitability via something like Jade Idol, or just ways to end the game faster before this even type of card would ever be relevant. This next card is pretty decent though, like for control warrior or any type of mid-range warrior. They basically can't kill it unless they want to give you the health for free, and basically they're always going to give you the health. Unless they can somehow force you to have to trade into their minion. This card is effectively 4/3 gain 6 armor, which is pretty nuts. Pretty good, I think. Bloodrazor's pretty good for a controller also. Battlecry and Death Rattle deal 1 to all minions, so immediately when it comes into play, you basically Ravaging Ghoul the board, and at the same time you're able to hit something for 3. And then the following turn you can pop it again to either like whirlwind again and finish off the board, or this card is really good. Like, it's not Deathspite power level because it doesn't attack face for 4, and you can't play it in aggressive decks like you could with Deathspite. So it's like a more balanced Deathspite. It's still gonna be like, if you're an aggro deck and you have to face off against Bloodrazor, this card is gonna be really annoying to play against. I'm not looking forward to it. I think it's really strong. Animated Berserker, when after you play a minion, deal 1 damage to it. I'm not quite sure the point of this card, or what type of deck would even want to play it. The obvious thing is like you play this and then you play Acolyte, but the type of deck that wants to play Acolyte probably doesn't want to play this card. So I'm not quite sure what the point of this card is. It doesn't really fit in an aggro deck. Probably not too good. Alright, all the princes are garbage. I don't even think we need to review this, do we? Like, what the hell were they thinking when they made these cards? I just can barely think of any application for any of them that would make, like, the thing is, it's gonna be the only 4-dropper, the only 3-dropper, the only 2-drop in your entire deck. And that's gonna fuck up your curve, and if you don't have this guy, like, what the... I don't even have much to say about these cards. Like, how did they make 1,200 dust worth of princes? Please, Blizzard. Nerubian Unraveler is just like Lotheb, but 100 times worse. The only time this card is good is when you get it off of Medivh. Like, you play a Meteor when you have Medivh in play, and then this card screws your opponent over. That's when it's gonna be broken. But other than that, like, if you're not getting it randomly from Medivh or something, A card you never put in your deck. Corpse Taker. Gain taunt if your deck has a taunt minion. Repeat for Divine Shield, Lifesteal, Wind Fury. I was arguing on Twitter with people that said this card is good. Like, I don't think it's good. The problem with this, I did the math on it. If Alakir is your only activator to give it Divine Shield and Wind Fury and Taunt, by turn 4 you draw Alakir. Depending on how many cards you mulligan, approximately 30 to 35% of the time. So you need more activators than just like Alakir to make use of this. And also, assuming you're playing it in Shaman, that's what we're assuming right now. You don't even really have any lifesteal minions to run yet. And also, you just have way better options in the 4 slot. Same for like Paladin. Paladin's like you're playing True Silvers and Consecrations and that sort of thing. Even if you could guarantee that this procs all 4 stats 100% of the time, it's still a questionable card to include in your deck. So I don't know. I'm not convinced that this card is any good. Also, a lot of the time, they're just gonna kill it before you're able to attack with the Wind Fury. So it's effectively like a 4 cost conditional Wicker Flame Burn Bristle. Meat Wagon. Summon a minion from your deck with less attack than this minion. I don't even want to look at this card anymore. This is Ticking Abomination is another one of the cards that's gonna like screw you over simply from random effects. It's not really a card intended to be played in a deck. Like, this is the type of card you would play Evolve, and then you get this, and then they fireball your Abomination and blow up your entire board. Just like, why do you even add this to the game? Like, you're just making the RNG in the game even stupider. Shallow Gravedigger. 3-1 Death Rattle. Add a random Death Rattle minion to your hands. 3-1 for 3 is like a really awful stats, even though you're getting a Death Rattle. And it's random. It's not even like you get to discover a Death Rattle. This card is just bad, right? Reviewing these cards is making me depressed. Like, I feel like there's so many bad cards. I'm not really impressed by this expand. I mean, we still have a lot to reveal left. It could turn around. Like, we still have a lot of cards to go, maybe. I don't know. Maybe there's a lot of good stuff waiting, but I'm not really seeing it right now. 5/5 for 7 Bone Mare. Give a friendly minion +4/+4 and taunt. It's a 9/9 for 7 that requires you to have a minion to get the full stats. This is an arena card. Probably really good in arena. It's not really playable for constructed though. Because in constructed, you don't want to have a condition of like needing another minion and play to buff in a type of deck that want to run this. Because you'd rather just play like Ancient of War and guarantee that you'll have all your stats. No Flipper Penguin. Alright, it's our third Wisp. It's a beast though. So I guess now you can get Wisp from your your one drop beast pair that gives your mana beast. Apparently people said this has some sort of good synergy with the Deathstalker Rex or hero power or something. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but I don't know. This stuff is cool, but a lot of it just seems unplayable to me. In comparison to the current power level of cards and decks that are being ran.